Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Meshery development call. It's Wednesday, November 3rd. It's overcast and raining here. So there's that. For some of you, it's Diwali. So happy Diwali. For some of you, it's just a rainy Wednesday. All right. Let's get up and going. As I peruse the new Zoom apps catalog, apparently, catalogs are a little bit of a focus for Meshery at the moment. There's a service patterns catalog being developed. Aditya Chatterjee has been championing that effort, but he's been looking for feedback. Before we get officially kicked off, I am compelled to go look at what is currently there. I have to ask Aditya, do you recall the link to, or the URL rather?
Meshery.io/service -mesh -patterns.
Very good. Let's take a quick look. Okay. It's a good thing for us. So normally we will kind of talk about this sort of a thing more on Monday's calls, on the website's call. But since we're talking about catalogs, so this is, you can tell from the Latin that this is a draft, an in-progress effort to publish a catalog of patterns. And it's coming right along. The nice thing is that as we go to publish other, create other aspects of the site, like this modal here, that there's probably some reuse that can go on. So I guess, which is nice. But for all of you that are on the call, you're all aware of what it's like to browse a catalog as a shopper online. And that's basically the experience that we're looking to present here. Instead of clicking, people can, instead of adding items to your shopping cart and checking out, you'll add patterns to your Meshery and import. We're not there yet, but that's the flow. Put this link into the meeting minutes, and then we'll actually go back to the meeting minutes and kind of welcome everybody, kind of get started. So we're 5 after, about 20 folks on the call. Anyone on the call today that hasn't been on this call before? And so success, this might be your first time on this call. We always take a moment to introduce people and say hi and talk about how much Jekyll on Windows is really difficult. Success, are you there? Can you say hi and introduce yourself? And Success, if your audio isn't working, you can certainly drop us a line in chat. But nice to have you. You'll have to let us know where you're calling in from. And I'm going to put a guess into Slack or to the chat, see if I hit it. I'm hopeful that I'm wrong. I'm hopeful that it's more like it's more of a country to the left or to the right. There's a lot of Nigerians here, which is fantastic. But we're lacking variety from representation from some of the other countries. So cool, good. Well, I hope some of my sarcasm is coming through. Success. But other than that, so it's Sayantan, Pranav. By the way, if you don't have your name in the list, get your 5 moments of internet fame, drop your name in the list. Also, now is the time to add any topics that you might have. I dropped one down below here. I'm going to drop another one, just a reminder for feedback on the service mesh patterns catalog. Cool. And then one last item. And so we're just about to get started, but I noticed that Arshil has joined So, so Arshil Sheikh, we're just about to start. Before we get going, though, we always take a moment to introduce people and say hi, get to know them. Arshil, do you mind just doing a quick introduction? I know it's really weird. You just joined the call and then all of a sudden you're supposed to speak. But do you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Hi everyone. So my name is Arshil and I'm currently an undergrad from India. In my second year, I am open source enthusiast and a week back found about Layer.io and looking forward to contribute.
Awesome. Yeah, nice to have you, Arshil. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for breaking the ice, by the way, and introducing. That's not an easy thing to do. To just, as soon as you join, start to speak. That happened to me, since I'm telling stories, that happened to me yesterday. I was presenting on the CNCF's technical oversight committee call. I joined like 7 minutes late because I was busy doing Meshery things. As soon as I joined, I heard them say, and now Lee will introduce. Anyway, okay, that wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. All right, so first up on the topics is Nitish, Mr.
Yep.
Karthik.
Okay, I hope my audio is clear because I'm traveling right now and I might not be able to share my screen or switch on the webcam. So I'll just give gist of what I wanted to talk about right now. So yeah, the first one is regarding the updates for the state management implementation, which is an ongoing process right now, and some people are actually working on it also. So if you're someone who's interested in UI and React and you want to contribute to this, then this might be a great point to start. So yeah, we have been like, yeah, we're actually trying to switch to a, we're actually trying to make a architectural overhaul in Meshery UI by bringing in Redux Observable, and yeah, basically to improve the state management and also the structure of how the code looks in Meshery UI as well. So yeah, so if you're interested, then you definitely have to check it out. And yeah, you can actually go to the design spec that's over there to see what are the problems that we're trying to address and how we are trying to, what is our approach to address those. And also, if you want to know, if you want to know how to get started, then the link for the README file is also there, where I have mentioned how like keeping in mind different positions and yeah, how to get started with for every one of you guys. So that's something that might be helpful. And yeah, so we need some yeah, we definitely need, like, it definitely needs a lot of help and work from you guys. So it would be great if you could jump in and take some of the issues or tasks that are to be done right now. So yeah, right now we in the state, there is a spreadsheet called state management implementation, where we are actually tracking what are the components that are to be built right now. So the first phase of what we're trying to do over here is to create globally reusable components, and from them we can build on top, like with using those things we can actually build complex components that we'll be using in our app as well. So that's kind of actually what we're trying to do now, and there are people who have signed up on taking some of the issues as well. So if you feel like you can take one of these up, then just feel free to put your name in the assignees tab, and then just yeah, open up a PR and let us know in the Slack channel or even over here. So anything would do. Yep, I've also there is a description for what a component, like what those components should look like and all those stuff. But if you're still not convinced, I mean, if you're still not sure about what that means, then feel free to ask in the Meshery UI channel. People will be there to answer. So that is all about that. Yep.
That's great.
So
For those,
anyone,
yeah,
I'm sorry. So I was just gonna ask if anyone has any questions or something that I can help with. Yeah, I'm assuming then there's no questions.
Nice. So let me add to what Nitish said by reinforcing a couple of things. So just I am going to start Meshery here in a moment. Actually, I can't start Meshery because there's a bug. We'll talk about that in a second. But for those that have perused Meshery's UI or used the one of two clients that Meshery has, the UI, you'll have noticed a particular experience. We're trying to overhaul that experience. And in order to do, and I'm just looking at some screenshots of what that experience is like, you might recognize some, well, depending upon your area of focus, you might recognize some Roboto font, some Material UI, some React.js, some REST APIs, some GraphQL thrown in there. There's some Billboard.js. You might have seen some Cytoscape.js. There's a lot of things going on in the UI, and rightfully so. We're trying to create a compelling experience. We're trying to make this confusing thing, infrastructure layer, service meshes much more comprehensible to users. And thus far, like any software project, you get so far along, and a lot of times you need to you get so far along and you immediately start paying down technical debt. And if you don't start paying it down, you're going to be in a world of hurt like 6 months, a year later. And so for Meshery, it's it's coming up on 2 years old in the not too distant future, which means that we've been fortunate. I suppose it's the right way of saying we've been fortunate enough to have to re-architect certain aspects of its architecture, certain aspects of its implementation. And the V2, the second version of those different areas, it turns out to be a lot better, a lot more resilient and reliable, like well-written, just a lot more principles built into how the code is structured and the project works. So at BAT right now, or like the the component that's currently under the knife, I'm going to try to use as many euphemisms as I can. We'll do the American at BAT. We'll do the plastics. Do the surgery under the knife. So this is undergoing not just it's not just a facial reconstruction. This is more major like open heart surgery for Meshery UI. So it's pretty exciting actually to be a part of it. There's a new, what Nitish had said was that React.js is still the foundation, still the library, the core library that's being used for the UI. We're integrating in Redux Thunk and Redux Observable, which will play into some of the stateful use cases that the new user experience will call for. So jump in and help. What Nitish is doing here is breaking down the various components of the UI. I mean, you call these kind of globally reusable components, and they're going through a transition. They're going through a rewrite. And it's nice because we're going to move up from what Material UI 4 to Material UI 5, from React.js 16 to 17, if I'm getting my versions right. And so, and we're going to incorporate the observables, incorporate state management. It's going to be good. It needs help. Some of you that are on the call, your names are represented here. And so for those that are on the call, can we get a little bit more of a status on this? So Aditya, since your name is first, are some of these components just, okay, it's right here, done. So this one is in fact done, and is the and then we've got, and so Aditya, you're out. You're out in the lead. You've got 2 done. Anybody else got any done? Megan is on the call. Sayantan. Anybody want to speak to their status? Things that they're running in, problems they're running into?
Yeah, so I'm still working on the code editor part. So the thing is, the code editor component that we used, I mean the package that we used, we can't use it in the React 17 that we're using in the new structure. So that's what I'm working on. Like I'm trying to use the React 17 version in that. So yeah, I'm facing a few issues. I'm trying to fix it. So I'll connect with Nitish or anyone in the Slack if I need some help. So
Nice. That's great. Thank you, Meghna. That's a good update. Huh. Yeah. I guess some of the components aren't going to make the transition. We'll have to find some new implementations. Okay. Who else has got an update on their effort here?
Right now for the calendar that we use in the performance profiles page, we use a library called React Calendar. So Nitish suggested that we might want to look into maybe another library to use. I kind of forgot about looking into it. So I'll do some research and try to find another library that we can use.
Yep. Reason why I suggested that was because if I found a solution for that with Material UI somewhere, I don't actually remember that. So I thought that if we could use the ones which come with Material UI, then it would probably be the best for us. So that was kind of the reason why I mentioned that. So if you're not able to figure it out, I mean, if you are not able to find the implementation Material UI, then yeah, then probably this is the right thing to do. But yeah, we need to look around for other alternatives as well before sticking on with this.
Yeah, so I haven't really looked into it that much. So I'll look into it and let you know.
Sure. Okay.
Nice. All right. Anybody else want to sign up? Do so to get an idea as to what it would be like to contribute one of these components. It's a rewrite, so it's not as hard as creating something from scratch. The README that you can find in the link in the meeting minutes, you'll find that the README, it's this one here. Oh, it's not that one. Nitish, in this README, this one is specific to this rewrite, correct?
Yep. Actually, the idea is that after we, after we turn on the switch, that is like after we implement, like get this thing into production, then this is supposed to be the README file, global README file.
Nice. Does anyone else mind adding the tracking spreadsheet to this? That would be nice. And something else. Does this README talk at all about Redux? Or is that not really necessary?
So as of now, I don't, yeah, actually, if you think about architectural documentation, then that's something that we'll have to write. But this is about, I kept in mind, like, I was thinking about people who are going to write React components and all those stuff together, because most of the things that we have to hook up with the Redux are already done. So
Cool.
I don't think there's anything that was worth mentioning over here.
Yeah.
I thought that it would kind of be a unnecessary distraction or something. So.
Yeah. Too complex, yeah, right. It makes sense. Okay, cool. Good. That's good. It's nice to see progress. We should start to, so I know Nitish is championing this effort, and he's planning on having it be kind of a consistent update week to week. So that'll give all of you that are working on those components an opportunity to demo some work or talk about where you're stuck. So, okay, good. Looks like Nitish, you have the next topic as well.
Yeah, this was something that I just wanted to announce that with Next.js has released a version 12 around a week ago, and with that they have introduced a new feature called, like, they have basically like, if you know, like, if you have been looking into the Next.js build, like the way it happens, it's actually using sorry. So we have actually been using JavaScript for that, but right now they have come up with a more efficient solution, that is they are right now using a Rust compiler to build and ship our Next.js code. So that is actually Next.js claims that it's 5 times faster for building and then 3 times faster for the development server. So yeah, we have to test it out and experiment with it. I have, like, in the new UI architecture implementation, I have switched to, I mean, I have upgraded the Next.js to version 12, and but one caveat here is that right now they don't actually have the support for, so we are actually using GraphQL Relay as well, Relay as a GraphQL client. So because of that, we'll have to there is some transformation that has to be done in the code, which actually Babel was doing it before, but right now as we switch to a Rust compiler, they don't actually have the support for that yet. So we'll have to wait for some time for in order for that support to be there. And yeah, after that it would be, we wouldn't have to wait as much as we are waiting right now. So
That's
that's
awesome.
something yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. That's great. Okay. Well, thanks for teasing us, I guess, since it's almost here.
Yeah, so the dependency updates were about these only. Like upgrading Next.js to Next.js 12, and in future we might also be upgrading to React latest version as well. And yeah, those were the updates. And like, those are not, it's not worth to talk about those because it's mostly about the Next.js 12. So
Okay. All right. So the next topic up was from Utkarsh. Utkarsh has a fever, so he is not going to be able to join. But this is a good time to talk about the upcoming v0.60 release, which some people are probably sick of us talking about at this point. It takes a lot to get kind of a significant release like this out and clean and working and functional and bug-free. It includes some new architectural components, a number of new features. And as such, currently, I'm gonna reshare my screen. Currently, I'm facing a challenge around Helm and our use of Helm. So Husaina and Piyush, I was just asking the two of you a couple of questions. Are you able to install, are you able to run Meshery CTL?
Yes, I am.
Say it again.
Start.
Yeah, so
I
there's.
believe start is not an issue. I mean, I am running an older version. However, I have an issue with system update. I am able to bring up the existing Meshery installation. So.
Yeah, yep. So we've so we just switched the way that we're deploying Meshery from using Kubernetes manifests directly to using Helm charts. Helm comes with some niceties, but also some challenges. One of those is like, yeah, one of those is around exactly what we're seeing here, which is I'm running a Kubernetes system. I've deployed Meshery onto Kubernetes in the past, but can't restart that deployment because Helm is having a hard time. It's trying to deploy our charts and then is running into conflicts because there are existing constructs, existing charts that were already there. So resources like a service account called Meshery operator is still present. And so like this kind of a thing, this is release blocking because people can't start Meshery. But two, we're going to see this in a few places on update, on restart, on when we remove Meshery, we go to install it again. If all the artifacts aren't removed, we're going to bump back into this. So some of the people that have been working on this aren't on the call. So Darren, Navendu, Rudraksh, Utkar Sam Asuko. I'll ping, actually, Aditya, do you mind pinging Asuko, asking him to join? He might be around. Is anyone else successfully running the latest version of Meshery? So the latest version is 5.070, 5.70.
Lee, can you show the mesh config, the version written in mesh config?
Yeah, let's see.
So you, yeah, version is latest. Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that said, this pinning right here, I believe it is bad. Like it's bad. One, that's a bug. I didn't ask for it to be pinned, but it's pinning itself, which is not necessarily ideal.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I should stop there and say, like, okay, my assumption is that the behavior is such that this specific pinning is overriding the latest version. That's something to confirm in our behavior.
Okay, I'll tell you something that what was the cause of this thing in my PC. Okay, similarly to this, my version was pinned to v0.5.48, and I was facing issues with this system start, with system update, both. And I was previously using an older version of Meshery CTL. Then I updated Meshery CTL first and removed the pinning to latest. And then I ran system start. System start started to work flawlessly. And after that, system update also is working flawlessly.
Nice. Okay. So there's a couple of things like we should clarify, like right here. In my mind, the channel is just supposed to be edge or stable. It's not supposed to be anything else, because that is the channel. We have two channels, edge and stable. And the version is, well, it's either that you're subscribed for the latest version within that channel, or you decided, you know what, I don't want to have Meshery automatically update itself. I'd rather just stay at a specific version. And so you would list, you know, the release tag number there. This is something that's behavior for us to follow up on. I'm going to do these two tests. In either case, Helm is bumping into itself. Oops, Helm is bumping into previously deployed components. So that's not good because we want it to be idempotent in this way, and Helm is not. But we want it to be able to, we want for Meshery's CTL to provide an idempotent experience. But we want, yeah. Another kind of related challenge here will be when we do a restart. So that won't, you know, that'll just be, it'll be interesting because within Kubernetes, it will basically be the same thing. It'll be a delete of an uninstall of the deployment, a Helm uninstall and a Helm install. So maybe that's easy enough. Who else has tried the latest release? Now, I've tried doing this by wiping my Kubernetes cluster, because right now it's saying, hey, you know, Helm is saying there's conflict, you can't get installed. I'll wipe the cluster, go to install it. I think it will install, but on subsequent restart of the cluster or subsequent start through Meshery CTL, I'll bump into these issues. So Husseina, right now, are you able to start Meshery CTL or start Meshery?
No, Lee. Actually, I'm also hitting this
Okay.
issue.
And
That,
is your,
yeah, to start Meshery.
And what is yours saying that you have existing components there?
Yes, yes. Rendered manifest container resource that already exists. Same thing.
I see. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because we went over this specific use case with the folks that were working on this, and they seem to have it covered, but don't. This right here, when we run system update, this message is from Helm.
Yeah, I tried to like go to deep down to this this error, but I couldn't find it. I don't know why. It was nowhere. I don't know where it was like coming from.
Yeah,
The
it's
system
coming.
has,
The
like, the exact code, like
sys-
the exact part why it is there. Okay, so what I did is like what I recommend you to do is like remove that stable dash version in your mesh config. Just write stable there. Wipe your like create an entirely new cluster, delete this cluster, and then run with latest release of Meshery CTL. And I think it will work flawlessly. It will work smoothly after that. That's what I did for my PC, and it is working right now correctly, like the supposed way.
Okay. But probably not ongoing. Like one, this just shouldn't be happening. And I mean, that's good what you said. I don't think that it's a one-time thing. I don't think that like people are going to end up in a situation where they rebooted they turn on and off their Minikube. They ran, like they might have uninstalled only parts of Meshery, and these situations should be handled gracefully. Like
I think we have to create kind of a logic that can like detect what kind of error it is. Like it's saying the resources are already existing. So we can kind of check if it is that issue and execute that kind of an action to like clear this out and then start Meshery up after clearing cluster, like something like that. I'm not sure if that is the right approach, but it's just the first thought.
Yep. Hussein, were you gonna say something?
Actually, I tried to stop and remove these files, and then like we would write the default config again, right? So I was trying that. Even with that, it's the same issue. Like cleaning up and then starting again. That's something I was trying.
So, okay, so Piyush, this particular error is being generated from Helm. Helm has a different concept of releases. Helm has its own concept of releases inside. And so the Helm, the command that's being run here is saying that Helm can't find a deployment of Meshery. And so you won't find this in our code explicitly because it's a runtime error generated by Helm. Okay, and so Aditya, no response from Asuko, Darren.
I didn't ping Darren, I'll do that, but no response from Isuko as of
Okay.
now.
Now, the other thing to be aware of or consider is that some of the same flows will happen from Meshery server for Meshery operator. So Meshery server will deploy Meshery operator and may bump into some of the same issues. Anybody else able to assist in this area? And that's okay if people aren't. Okay. All right. So we'll move on. But yeah, so Piyush and Husseina, we'll keep cracking. We'll see what we can figure out. Yeah. And Piyush, like the logic that you said made sense. Like, hey, if you're in this situation, do that, do this. That should have been taken care of. Like there should be that kind of consideration already. It's not working though. Any other comments on this? Cool. Okay. Great. Next topic was from Rudraksh. Rudraksh is his dad just had surgery. He's so Rudraksh is out. This is a great topic though, splitting out Nighthawk from Meshery's server container. So we'll talk about that next time. He's done some good work there. Next up is Aditya.
Yep, I'll share my screen. So I had demoed on the website's call. So where updates from that is like the sidebar was not working, like it was not routing to the specific version that was selected, and there was a problem with the footer. So I have fixed that. The sidebar also works now. It goes to the version that is selected currently. And yeah, so all that is left, that I think is only left, is changing the internal links, which are like there are some links that we need to update which are inside the docs. Except that, I think the outer shell is completed. So that's the update I had.
Nice. Cool. Many others before Aditya have attempted and failed. Aditya, a couple of quick questions to verify. So the cookie crumb trail there, or the breadcrumb trail at the top, is home with the version number in it. Okay, that makes some sense. You're bringing forth a global drop down or a global selector for choosing what version of the docs you want to look at. If you click the drop down, I'm assuming you're, yeah, great. You're not, like we have 100 plus releases of Meshery, but you're not gonna inundate the user with all those little minor, technically the releases that we have here, these like using the nomenclature of semantic versioning, technically that is a minor release at 0.5, but to us it's a major one, right? Because we're sort of incrementally stepping there. So great, so you're breaking it down based on 0.5. Do you have the concept of latest?
Yeah, I will do that. Like, so the one which is the latest /point or point v6. So that's the next item that I need to do.
Got you. Another question. So by the way, for Success, who's no longer with us, we'll have to tell Success that we're talking about Jekyll and he isn't here. Let's do that. Can you show the folder structure? So are you replicating the entire contents of the docs?
Yeah, currently, yes.
Now that, and structurally, how does that?
So there's a folder called versions inside docs that has v1, v2, v3, v4, and v5, v6.
Got you. Okay. And then the entire contents of today's version of the docs are basically under those version folders.
Yeah, all the pages are inside those, but like the includes and all those are all globally.
Okay, that's okay. So okay, all right. One of the caveats there is that,
yeah, it shouldn't be too big, like, but it's going to increase the repo size.
Yeah,
Like,
that's, you know, you're like, yeah, we can deal with that, or like, that's not. So I don't, for all of you who may or may not be paying attention to what GitHub will give you as an open source project, like for free on an open repo, is a certain amount of storage. If you look at the size of the docs that we have, they're of a certain size. We've done a calculation in the past to understand how many versions of the docs we could have up until the point that GitHub didn't like that anymore. We ran over that limit. So okay, while the doc size is a concern, I'm probably more concerned with not replicating everything holistically, because if you leave styling, some includes, some other things as universal and external to a specific version, when you go to add a new entry in the menu for one version, because we're going to add more menu items or change the menu items, that's going to affect the other versions. And you'll basically end up introducing broken links into the other versions. You might do a style change or a footer update, or add a translation like to Spanish in the header, and all of that will break across all the rest of the. So it's a lot, while it's somewhat wasteful in terms of the footprint on disk, like wasteful, you know, it's the simple approach of just zipping and copying the entire, not zipping, but copying the entire contents, guarantees that things don't break.
yeah.
We generally don't go back in time to like retrofit some style change or something on the old site. Like that's generally not something we would do.
Yeah, so all the versions should have everything, right? That's what you're saying.
You know, probably I think we'll just end up in less of less conundrum, because otherwise, like if you didn't like technically, by the way, if you can go to the docs dot, some people might have a hard time envisioning what we're talking about, and that's, but if all that we're versioning is the content in the middle of that middle frame, over time, as we change the nav bar, you'll find you have broken links across the versions. And so, yeah, including, yeah, I would. So some of this is called out in the design spec that's there. Right? It discusses this a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I could do that. I just didn't do that. Like, I get what you're saying, but I just didn't do that because it would, like, the repo size would increase by a lot.
Yeah.
Because we have 6 versions as of now, and I have already changed almost 1,000 files. And
Yeah.
this is not even the entire thing. Like, it's just adapters and all the pages. Though some of these files will be deleted, because I guess version 1 and version 6 won't have the same documentation. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you do a quick calculation and then compare it to the amount of space that we're given, that'll give us a sense.
I think it's 1 GB, right? Like the repo size that we can go to. So we do have a lot of space left, considering that layer 5.io has almost like 200,000 files, and it's just 800 MB. So we have a lot of space, but I guess we shouldn't be wasting it.
And when we do cross that bridge, or when it does come to pass that that we're running out of room, we can do a few things. We can go use it like S3, some other object storage potentially, to just host those static files elsewhere. We can acknowledge and admit to ourselves that no one cares about Meshery.1 or Meshery.2,
Yeah.
and we can permanently archive those potentially, or make them available but offline or something else. And so, yeah.
Could we move docs to like a different repo? Like,
Yeah,
maybe
that's another. Yep, that's another. Now, interesting psychological. Yep, that's another thing. Just briefly, as we think toward that. you know what, I won't go into it. If we ever talk about that, there's a bunch of things to consider if you break it out. So. Cool, okay. Aditya, that's fantastic, man. That really helps. Have you been working on workflow as well?
Not yet. Like for the error codes, we would have to change the workflow to just work on the latest and not on all of the versions. So yeah, I'll look into that after I'm done with everything in the versioning.
No, okay, yeah, and then the release notes, how they publish as well.
Yeah. I'll need some help with that because I have never done that before. So yeah.
Sounds good. Cool. Okay. All right. So the next topic up was is from Barak.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay. So for context of what Barak's going to share, as we end the .6 release and we head into Meshery .7, one of the larger architectural components is to be a revision and enhancement to Meshery's internal messaging framework. And so that's in part what Barak is looking at.
Yeah, assuming that you can see my screen. So this is a spec that I've built, which I've made over the last week. So this is about a migration of our messaging framework to a broadcast-based subscription. So here, basically what I need to do now is that we need to review this specification and find out whether there's something missing in the current specification, basically, so that when we finally try to implement the code, we were already aware of the nook and cranny of this implementation, basically. So a little bit of a background for this specification, basically. So we have some like nested Go routines for our from our Golang code. So if you guys are interested in the server side as well, so we kind of use like a Golang for our server, and here is that the main problem is the one I outlined, basically. So in the Golang channel, if the channel is unbuffered, you can basically block the whole invocation of a function, basically. So this is purely in the Golang system. So here what we are trying to do is that we are trying to like make a way around this system, and then we so the way we make around this is basically we try to create a broadcast system that is natively coded inside the Golang itself. So for the reference, I actually haven't sent the documents at the chat. Yep. So that's so I've sent the link in the chat. So if you guys are free, you can take a look into this. So this is currently in the draft, and hopefully it will be under review soon. I think it is under review actually now. So yeah, so that's it.
It's a good looking spec. So Barak is tackling a difficult question here. Really important. Meshery is made up of, well, Meshery comprises a lot of components. Those components all need to talk to each other, exchange messages, and the internals of that is what Barak is dissecting, going through and trying to elevate. So there's this document, and then Oh, and then actually Michael asked the same question I was about to speak to. So that first comment there is, how does what Barak is presenting align with the messaging framework and design node? So Barak, yep, we need to clarify. And this probably should be included in the other design spec. Probably this is largely what, yeah, this is largely is like the same focus. This is the focus of the messaging spec.
Yeah, so for this question is actually I answered it in this part. So I put it inside the design prologue, and yeah, so this is basically outlines how this correlates with the previously made messaging system and notification center design. Yeah, so actually, there is something that Michael asked before, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, so this is the question. So I think, so he said that he thinks that it will be useful to add a sentence why we would like to persist the data, like when are we interested in past data. So this is actually one of the issues that I think that we should address. So inside the visualizer for the mesh map, you can see that there are multiple data there are actually like outdated in some sense, outdated in terms of like these service meshes are not really inside the cluster anymore. So in our current architecture, we couldn't really like determine whether a node is expired or a node is still there or not. So I think they should be, yeah, so this is the reason why like Michael is asking whether we will like to really persist the data or not in our local database. So yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, this is great. Michael's question is good, and we want to persist the data. That said, we want to have a mechanism for, we want to have an audit log, and that's really, we want to facilitate for an audit log. Meshery server itself, data persistence is not in its scope, its charter per se. Like, Meshery as a project isn't trying to be responsible for persistent data, because that's hard and it's risky and there's liability involved. And so we're handing that responsibility off to the provider, whatever provider that you might plug in, and allowing that provider to offer long-term persistence or build on top of the available messages. And so something that you would build from the messages like this would be an audit log or an audit trail or just a set of logs that people can look through to understand the state of the system. And so we want to, this is an area for an extension point. Like we need to be able to have a hook for that data to persist in a remote provider.
I see.
So we can use the,
Go on, please.
yeah, so we can use kind of prior patterns that are there for persisting performance tests and you know, other things like that.
I see. Oh, so okay. So currently, what we have is that we persist the data locally. So to summarize what you said earlier is that this database, these things that we store inside the local database is out of logs, is it? And eventually we hope to like persist these nodes into the remote provider.
Cool. I still don't. Good. Good. So for my part, I'll go read through this, and I'll be trying to answer the question of why are we not using NATs? And but for others that are on the call, please provide Barak feedback. And he speaks to NATs in here as well.
Yep, that'll be great.
This is nice,
All right.
Barak.
Thank you. That's all.
right. We're just about at time. Navendu gave an update on things for tomorrow's tag network meeting, which includes Nighthawk and some of the efforts there. Oh, so Manav, do you want to give your update? Okay, so Manav isn't on. He mentioned earlier in the chat that he's having challenges with his network. So just for everyone that's on the call, I'll share this briefly. So along with the UI re-architecture, not only are we, incorporating Redux and the other things that we spoke of earlier on the call, but also as we redesign, as we incorporate that new architecture, there's an opportunity for new design for fresh interfaces. And so the dashboard of Meshery today is blah. If you, if it's okay to say that, or when you go into Meshery and it shows you some info, Barak has like really helped it be better than it was, which was in an even lesser spot. And so it's time to enhance that. It's time to get charts and lines and graphs and big numbers and that type of thing in front of people's faces. And so that's what Manav is working on. And he's to do that, what Manav is and these are really bad mock-ups, but what Manav is trying to do is he's first starting with the notion that Meshery has connections to Prometheus and Grafana and can query for metrics using a couple of different mechanisms. But the internals of Meshery don't they need a few more constructs to be able to define things like panels, which is like this is a panel, like a chart, a single chart with maybe multiple metrics, and then a board, which is what this represents. Now, Meshery has some of that ability today, but it needs to be enhanced to be able to let people add custom metrics that they want to track and to add, and then to identify where they would like to put what board with what panels, like what metrics. And so that's kind of what he's working toward. Thank you, Ashish. So Ashish, if you're still on, I didn't release MeshKit because there's an open PR there that I was assuming would be good for that to land before we did a release. Is Ashish still on? No, we missed him. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, that's what that's about. Does anybody have anything else for today? So Helm and Meshery CTL, those are probably the biggest thing. No pressure, Husseina, Piyush. Cool. Okay. All right. I think we're at time. So we'll see some of you for tomorrow's CNCF tag network meeting. You're all welcome to come. We might see some of you on the newcomers call tomorrow, and then on Friday for the community meeting. All right. Talk to you all soon.
Bye-bye. See you guys.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye-bye.